Turin, 1841. A young priest walks through prison corridors. The air smells of sweat and despair. Behind iron bars, boys, not men, boys, 12 years old, 15, 17. Healthy bodies, sharp eyes, wasted. Father Giovanni Melchiorre. Bosco stops. He stares. Later he will write exactly what he saw that day. To see so many boys, from 12 to 18 years of age, all healthy, strong, intelligent, insect-bitten, lacking. Spiritual and material food was something that horrified me. That sentence, those words, they launched a revolution in education that would reach 136 countries and save millions of children. This is the story of Don Bosco, the priest who proved that love works better than punishment, the educator who built an empire on 3 simple words, and the man who saw what happens when society forgets its children. If you value documented history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also, comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the Catholic Encyclopedia, published by New Advent in 2025, the Salesian Historical Institute's collected works from 2017, titled Don Bosco and His Work, the EWTN Historical Archives on Don Bosco's life updated December 2024, and the Journal of Salesian Studies peer-reviewed articles on the preventive system dated August 2025. These are deep scholarly sources that document every detail of Don Bosco's methodology. Now back to the information. The father, Francis Bosco, contracts pneumonia. He dies in 1817. Margaret becomes a widow at 29 with 3 boys to raise. Antonio, the oldest, Giuseppe, the middle, Giovanni, the baby, they own almost nothing. A small cabin, meager fields, 2 cows. They work as farmhands for wealthier families. This is poverty, real poverty, the kind where you work from dawn to dark and still wonder if there will be bread. But Margaret Bosco understood something. She made her family, in the words of this historical record, a domestic church, faith, work, charity, those 3 pillars. Even when they had nothing, she fed the homeless who knocked on their door. Even when Giovanni was 4 years old and should have been playing, she taught him to work, but she also taught him to see God in everything, in fortune and in misfortune, that combination. Hard work and unshakable faith, it shaped him. Also majestic. Mary, she points to the boys. Look closer, she says. Giovanni looks. The boys transform, from wolves into lambs. The woman speaks again. You will do this. You will turn wolves into lambs, not with force, with meekness and charity. Make yourself humble, strong, and robust. When the time comes, you will understand everything. A calling. From that moment, everything Giovanni does points toward one goal. Those boys, those wolves, he will save them. He finds work as a farm servant at Louis Moglia's wine farm. For 2 years, he cannot attend school. He studies alone, by himself, whatever he can learn. 1830, a young priest named Joseph Cafasso notices him. Cafasso sees the intelligence, the hunger to learn. He supports Giovanni's education. Margaret scrapes together every coin she can earn. 1835, 20 years old. Giovanni enters the seminary at Chieri. 6 years of intense study, Latin, philosophy, theology. The training is rigorous, but Giovanni has skills no other seminarian possesses. He learned them working his way through childhood. He can perform as a tailor, a blacksmith, a shoemaker, a carpenter. He plays the violin. He does acrobatics, magic tricks, juggling, balancing acts. The other students watch him in amazement. He performs these talents to gather boys around him. Then he teaches them. He prays with them. He is already practicing what he will perfect. Get them to love you. They will follow you anywhere. Don is the Italian honorific for priest. He moves to Turin, population 117,000. The Industrial Revolution is sweeping through northern Italy. Factories rise, workshops multiply. Poor families flood in from the countryside. They come looking for work, looking for hope. Most find neither. He visits the slums, the garrets, the cellars. He sees the terrible effects of herding the young and innocent with those already corrupt. Children sleeping in the streets, boys working brutal hours in factories for pennies, injuries, exhaustion, no education, no future. And then, the prisons. From 12 to 18, imprisoned with hardened criminals, learning from them, becoming like them. They are healthy, they are strong, they are intelligent, but they are rotting. Spiritually, physically, no one teaches them, no one cares. The statistic. In this period, over 10% of Turin's adolescent population cycles through imprisonment or reform institutions. The system is repressive, punishment-based. It does not rehabilitate. It embitters. The sacristan is driving away a ragged boy, Bartolomeo Gorelli from Asti, 16 years old, an orphan. came to Turin looking for work as a mason's apprentice. He wanted to serve Mass, but does not know how. The sacristan screams at him. Don Bosco hears the boy crying. He calls him back. Here, call the boy back. He is my friend. That moment, that friendship, struck up on the spur of the moment. It begins Don Bosco's worldwide ministry to bring young people to God. Then a full-day outing in the countryside. The boys love it. They have never experienced this. An adult who listens, who cares, who does not beat them. To 3 rooms in Via Cotolengo where he resumes night schools. To an open field. People think he is insane. There's an actual attempt to confine him in an asylum. Some think he is dangerous. Complaints are lodged. His community is called a nuisance. The character of the boys, the noise, the chaos. Next door is a saloon. Across the street, a hotel of shady reputation. But it is his. The shed he converts into a chapel. Tiny, cramped. Every Sunday, 500 boys somehow squeeze into it. He calls it the Oratory of St. Francis de Sales. He admires the gentle holiness of that saint. The location can still be seen today, the tiny nucleus of a worldwide organization that began in poverty with Our Lady's blessing. That same year, 1846, Don Bosco's Sunday oratory houses over 600 boys. Some 20 youngsters lodge with him. He needs help. He calls his mother, Mama Margaret. She's aging. She could stay in the comfort of her village home. Instead, she comes. She sacrifices everything, her home, her furnishings, her jewelry. She cooks. She cleans. She loves these children of the streets like they are her own. The boys call her Mama Margaret. She gives the last 10 years of her life in devoted service. Without her, the work collapses. They go through multiple editions, enormous circulations. All this while teaching boys to read, to write, to calculate. Many of them are illiterate. In 1844, the educational opportunities in Turin are scanty at best. The Casati law, which will become fundamental law for public and private instruction, is still 15 years away. Don Bosco teaches by candlelight, after boys finish grueling factory shifts. They are hungry to learn. In one account from the Journal of Salesian Studies, a witness writes, "Even after all these years, I will never forget the excitement and eagerness of the boys who came to Don Bosco's night classes. They learned to read with a fervor I have never seen since. The swarm of boys flocking to these centers overwhelms capacity. The problem intensifies. Where will these boys sleep? Many are orphans, no families, no homes. They sleep under bridges, in bleak public dormitories. Don Bosco tries to house them. The first attempt, they steal the blankets. The second attempt, they empty the hayloft. He does not give up. May 1847, he shelters a young lad from Valencia. The boy sits by the fire. I had 3 lira when I arrived in Turin, he says, but I found no work and no place to sleep. Don Bosco begins housing boys permanently. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 5, 5 becomes 20. Don Bosco opens 2 small workshops, one for shoemaking, one for tailoring. He teaches unemployed youngsters trades, honest ways to earn a living. A workshop for carpentry follows, then bookbinding, cabinet making, a printing press. That press develops into the great publishing house known worldwide as Società Editrici Internazionale. It is the method, the philosophy, the system. The traditional educational approach of the time uses fear, corporal punishment, public shaming, surveillance, harsh discipline, the repressive system, break the child's will, force obedience. Don Bosco watched it for years. He visited enough schools, enough prisons. He saw the results. Boys do not become better. They become bitter. They resent. They rebel. They seek revenge. The Catholic Encyclopedia records episodes of men in old age exacting ugly revenge for punishments justly inflicted during their school days. The repressive system stops a disorder, but it does not improve offenders. Through relationship, through presence, through love. But it becomes the foundational text of Salesian pedagogy, published autumn of 1877, Il sistema preventivo nella educazione della gioventù, the preventive system in the education of the young. From then on, translations multiply, reprintings spread across Europe and South America. Together. Reason means the educator acts reasonably, fairly. The rules apply to everyone, including the educator. Not the whim of authority, but the rule must prevail. Rights and obligations must be constantly respected. Also, reason means the educator believes in the inner strength of the young person, their openness to goodness and truth. Do not treat them like criminals. Treat them like humans capable of choosing good. Religion means more than ritual. It means living faith, the recognition of God as Father, frequent confession, frequent communion, daily Mass. These are the pillars, Don Bosco writes, that ought to support an educational edifice, but not blind religion, reasonable religion, religion that makes sense, religion that attracts, religion wrapped in joy. In the Salesian approach, play and prayer go together. A boy constantly in prayer and never in the playground worried Don Bosco. Balance, that is the key. In November 1884, he writes a letter to his Salesians from Rome. Education is a thing of the heart. The educator, having won the loving respect of the student, will be able to greatly influence him, warn him, counsel him, and also correct him, even when he is employed in civil service or in commerce. For these and many other reasons, the preventive system should prevail over the repressive. They say Don Bosco is weak, that he spoils the boys, that chaos will reign, but the results speak. Don Bosco can gather 500 boys in a hall. They study quietly, diligently, no threats, no punishment, just presence, just care. How? Because the boys know they are loved. They do not want to disappoint him. The assistant is not a guard. The assistant is a benefactor who gives good advice, who wants to make the boy good, who shields him from unpleasantness, from punishment, from dishonor. The preventive system makes a friend of the student. This is not theory. This is practice. Day after day, year after year. Don Bosco proves that love-based education produces good Christians and honest citizens. He selects the best among his boys, the ones who grew up in the oratory, the ones who learned his methods. 17 young men, plus Don Bosco himself, form the nucleus, the Pious Society of St. Francis de Sales, the Salesians. They take private vows. May 1862, 22 of them take formal vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. This becomes a true religious congregation. March 1st, 1868. Pope Pius IX officially recognizes the society. April 3rd, 1874, the constitutions are approved. They will help Italian immigrants, evangelize indigenous groups in Patagonia. They establish schools, agricultural colonies. They work in harsh conditions, frontier evangelization. It is brutal. But the mission takes root. 18,000 finished apprentices going out annually. 64 Salesian houses operating, predominantly in Italy, but established in France, Spain, England, Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil. 1,039 professed Salesians, from the original 18 in less than 30 years. The Salesian Bulletin, first published in 1877, is now published in 52 editions in 30 languages. Don Bosco also founds the Daughters of Mary Help of Christians in 1872 with Maria and Domenica Mazzarello, the Salesian Sisters. They apply the same methods for girls, education, care, the preventive system, and the Salesian Cooperators, founded 1876. Laypeople with the same educational mission to the poor, 3 branches, 1 family, 1 mission. Don Bosco lies dying. He is 72 years old. His body is worn out. Decades of tireless work, fundraising trips across Europe, constant stress. In 1883, though not in good health, he traveled all around France. He stayed in Paris for 4 weeks. Victor Hugo, author of Les Miserables, visited him. The newspaper Le Figaro wrote that in front of the house where Don Bosco stayed, coaches lined up all day during a week. Everyone wanted to see him, to shake his hand, to ask for his blessing. But Don Bosco remained humble. On the train back to Turin, he said to Father Rua, "Do you remember the small house in Becci? I lived in that poor house with my mother. We were farmers with only a small field and 2 cows. If the leading figures of Paris knew that they welcomed such a farmer from a village, what will they think?" Now, lying on his deathbed, he whispers final instructions to his Salesians. Love each other as brothers, do good to all and avoid evil. Tell my boys that I shall be waiting for them all in paradise. His funeral is attended by thousands. The city of Turin mourns. The church investigates. Witnesses testify. Was he worthy to be declared a saint? The answer from everyone, yes. He pushes the cause forward with vigor. June 2, 1929, Don Bosco is beatified. April 1st, 1934, Easter Sunday, Don Bosco is canonized, the title given, Father and Teacher of Youth. 1949, Pope Pius XI proclaims him patron saint of Catholic publishers. His work with printing, his books, his bulletins, they changed the landscape of Catholic media. By 1911, just 23 years after Don Bosco's death, Salesians are established throughout the world. China, India, South Africa, Tunisia, the United States, 1995, more than 17,000 Salesians in 1,616 houses. Today, over 14,659 Salesians, 90 provinces, 136 countries, thousands of schools, technical institutes, youth centers, parishes, the second largest male religious order in the Catholic Church, all from one priest who saw boys in prison and said, "No, not on my watch." A child who feels loved will choose good. A child who feels respected will respect others. A child who knows they matter will not throw their life away. Don Bosco proved this, not with theories, with thousands of boys, documented results, tracked outcomes. That was always the goal, not just to keep boys out of prison, to get boys into heaven, good Christians and honest citizens, both, not one without the other, the spiritual and the practical, integrated, inseparable. The classic liberal ideology of low-state intervention. It led to systematic abuse of young people. Those who found jobs in workshops and factories were exploited. Those who could not find jobs were condemned to vagrancy, street gangs, crime, prison, the same pattern, over and over. Don Bosco stepped into that chaos. One man, one mother, one vision. They built a counterculture, a place where children mattered, where work and play and prayer all happened together, where reason and faith walked hand in hand. Not the institutional form, the spirit, the presence, the care. Adults who show up, who stay, who do not give up. Get them to love you, and they will follow you anywhere. That motto, it is simple, it is profound, it is true. The thousands of apprentices who learned trades, who became honest workers, who raised families, who passed on faith, the missionaries who carried the preventive system to 6 continents, the teachers who adapted it to different cultures, different times, all flowing from that moment in December 1841 when a priest heard a boy crying and said, "He is my friend." Education is not about information. It is about formation, not filling heads, forming hearts, character, virtue, purpose. You cannot beat goodness into a child. You cannot frighten them into holiness. You must attract them, draw them, invite them. Show them that the path of good is the path of joy. The Salesian approach creates an environment, a family spirit, warmth, trust, spontaneity, joy. In that environment, young people thrive. They want to be good. They want to succeed. Not because they fear punishment, because they trust the adults guiding them. Anyone who follows them up in later life knows that the recollections of the young are dreadful. They forget the punishments inflicted by their parents, but with great difficulty those given by their teachers. On the other hand, the preventive system makes a friend of the student. The student sees in the assistant a benefactor, not an enemy, not a warden, a friend. Don Bosco never pretended this was just human psychology. He believed in grace, in Mary's protection, in God's providence. He saw miracles. The deaf heard, the lame walked. Once a dead boy was raised to life after his prayers, the gift of prophecy. He had dreams, visions, they guided his work, the most famous. The dream of the 2 columns, the church like a ship in a fierce naval battle, the Pope at the helm, wounded, dying. The new Pope rises. He steers the ship between 2 columns, one topped with the Eucharist, one with a statue of Mary. The ship finds refuge there. Anchored between the Eucharist and Mary, the church survives. Don Bosco interpreted this as the trials the church would endure: rampant secularism, apostasy, attacks against her teachings. The solution: return to the Eucharist, return to Mary. He lived that solution. His boys received frequent communion, daily Mass, devotion to Mary help of Christians. These were not add-ons, they were essential. They adapted, they innovated, but they kept the core: reason, religion, loving kindness. Who do not give up on them? Who see past the dirt and the rags and the uncouthness to the spark that a little kindness and encouragement will fan into a flame? That was Don Bosco's gift. He saw the wolf, but he believed in the lamb underneath. Recognition, love, the teacher-student relationship, the constant presence, the familiarity, the trust. These are not denominational, they are human. Don Bosco discovered educational principles that work because they align with how people are made. We are made for relationship, for love, for purpose. Education that ignores these realities fails. Education that embraces them succeeds. 19th century, too religious, too strict, too idealistic. They will not work in today's secular, diverse, complex societies. But look at the schools, look at the youth centers, look at the Salesian presence in slums and conflict zones in the forgotten corners of the world. They work, still. Why? Because the principles are not cultural artifacts. They are anthropological truths. A child who feels safe will learn. A child who feels valued will grow. A child who encounters genuine love will respond with trust. That never changes. Before child labor laws, before anyone talked about at-risk youth, he saw the need, he filled it pragmatically, creatively, with whatever resources he had, which was usually nothing. He begged, he borrowed, he fundraised. He wrote books and sold them to fund his schools. He built printing presses so his boys could learn a trade while producing materials to spread the mission. Everything served the goal: save the young. Margaret Okiana, his mother, deserves her own recognition. Without Mama Margaret, the oratory collapses. She was venerable in her own right, declared venerable by the church in 2006. She left her home, her comfort, her retirement, to cook and clean for street boys, to mother the motherless. She brought solicitude and love. She made the oratory a home, not an institution, a home. that spirit, that family atmosphere. It came from her. Don Bosco learned the preventive system at her knee. She never beat him. She never crushed his spirit. She guided him with reason, with faith, with love. He simply applied to hundreds of boys what she applied to him. Not because he preached at them, because he loved them. He played with them. He ate with them. He prayed with them. He was present, constantly. That word, assistance. It means more than supervision. It means participation. The educator joins the boys in their games, takes interest in what they like, empathizes with them. This opens hearts. Boys can open up without fear to their teachers, assistants, and superiors. They become frank both inside and outside the confessional. They show great docility to the commands of those of whose love they are sure. Not from compulsion, but from persuasion. That is sustainable, that lasts, even when the child becomes an adult, even when the educator is gone. The internal compass remains, the formation holds. Documented, teachable, replicable, the charism, transferable. He trained his successors. Michael Rua, his first pupil, became the second director major. Rua knew Don Bosco for 47 years. He absorbed everything. He carried it forward. Then Paul Albera, then Philip Rinaldi, then Peter Ricaldone. Generation after generation of rectors major, each one faithful to the founder's vision, each one adapting to new times without abandoning the core. The Salesian family today includes not just the Salesians, the Daughters of Mary Help of Christians, the Salesian Cooperators, the volunteers of Don Bosco, Salesian alumni movements, hundreds of thousands of members, millions of young people served annually. It is one of the largest networks of youth service in the world, Catholic, global, grassroots, all from one priest, one mother, one shed in Valdaco, the one that reframes everything. 1888, the year of Don Bosco's death. Researchers later discovered mass graves near the first oratory site in Valdaco, the burial ground of the martyrs of Turin. Early Christians, persecuted, killed for their faith, buried there. Don Bosco learned this in a dream years after he acquired the property. The oratory ground was sacred. Martyrs' blood sanctified it. The boys he saved. They walked on ground where martyrs died. The lambs. The wolves turned into lambs. They inherited the faith of the martyrs, not through coercion, through love, through witness, through sacrifice. That was his last thought, not his achievements, not his legacy, his boys, the relationship, the love. That is what mattered. That is what endures. That is what changes the world, one heart at a time.